Thanks, Eddie, for joining us here today.
Good morning.
It's exciting to have you, and it's great to get the chance to chat with you before we go into the session tomorrow.
Yes,
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, Eddie, you're the CMO of Vitaeris.
Yes.
Can we still say that's a startup company, or is that a company beyond the startup phase?
Yeah, we're a startup. I think you can still call us a startup, virtual company. We're a very, very small company. We only started in 2016. We've spent the first year, trying to think of an indication that we could develop our asset, our drug in, and then we started focusing on transplant in 2017. So, in that sense, we're a startup company.
So you're saying the drug was there first, and then you were looking for the indication?
Yeah, we acquired this drug from another biotech company, which we had a lot of data, phase 2 data from this with this drug in another indication, and we basically used the safety data from this and some of the efficacy, the pharmacology data that already existed with this drug, and then basically reposition it in the field of transplant to treat chronic antibody-mediated rejection.
Well, and that's obviously an important unmet need in transplantation.
Yeah.
So for those of us in the field who do not understand how this works, you don't go to a market and look around and you find a drug and then you ask to buy it. That's not how it happens. So how does it really work? How are you made aware of a possible drug that can be bought, and how can drugs be bought? Are you buying a patent, or are you buying the rights, or what are you buying actually?
We actually acquired the drug outright, the patent, intellectual property, the IP. So we actually own the drug completely. And in terms of finding an indication, a lot of us in the company, especially the investors, they came from a background, from a transplant background. And then we were made aware of some promising data from California, actually, from Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles initially. And that's how we sort of positioned this drug in the field of transplant. And then specifically to treat chronic antibody-mediated rejection after kidney transplantation, which, as you know, is one of the biggest unmet needs in the field of transplant.
Oh, that's right. So you identify a target and you figure, okay, this could be working well in transplantation, but you don't have any money then at that point.
Yes, yeah. We had a small group of investors, local investors in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And then we were lucky enough to persuade CSL Behring, who's a major global biotech company, and they are now our corporate partner in this adventure. So, and they're funding all our research and development activities. So we were very fortunate to get a corporate partner such as CSL Behring on board.
So from your perspective, would you say that this is an easy thing to do if you have an idea, a patented drug? You go from door to door. How much effort does it take, and how difficult is it to convince an investor, and what are they looking at then?
I think it's always difficult to convince investors to come on board. Obviously, as you know, developing drugs take a lot of money, and there are large sums of money involved here. So they are obviously, investors are always very careful in how they part with their money. But in this case, we had a lot of good data to support this drug from the previous clinical trials. We had a very good story to convince corporate partners that this is a worthy adventure to come on board. The condition that we're treating has an unmet need. There's no proof of effective treatments, and it is obviously a very serious, potentially life-threatening condition. So we had a good, and we had a very good regulatory path as well, because we went to speak with the FDA, the CHMP, and they were all very receptive to our plans for bringing this drug onto the market for the benefit of patients.
Wonderful. So you're addressing one very important point in the struggle that we have, and that is working with the authorities to define the endpoints for such trials. Right. And especially for antibody-mediated rejection, this is often long-term,
right,
which financially is then a big burden to the companies engaging. How do you fix that?
Well, this is one of the key challenges that we have in this field, as you know. So we were able to come up with a study design that uses a surrogate endpoint in an interim analysis. And if this interim analysis of this surrogate endpoint is positive, the FDA has agreed that we could file for what we call accelerated approval, and so that we can get the drug onto the market at that time, whilst the whole study carries on to its final endpoint. So that's basically the regulatory strategy. So that is obviously attractive to corporate partners. They don't, so they do not have to wait till the whole study is completed, which may take 5 or more years to do. So hopefully with this interim analysis, it may be 2 or 3 years time that we can get onto the market if the results are positive.
Okay. Well, that's a great way to address this and to solve this. So that was done before you went to the investors, and that was sort of one of the important selling points.
Yeah, that was one of the important selling. So we were quite confident that we could, convince the FDA, because the FDA, I think, have indicated they were receptive to innovative ideas coming forward, because I think they were also well aware of the need for new transplant drugs. Because as you know, there has not been a new transplant drug for more than 10 years now, and the need is there. So I think they were, we had a very good indication speaking to other transplant experts that the FDA and the CHMP were going to be receptive to any new innovative ideas coming forward. So I think that was not a difficult story to sell to our corporate partners, and we were proven right when we went to speak to the FDA.
So it's a lengthy and complex process to acquire the rights, the patent, put together the trial, go to the FDA, find an investor. At any point in time, did you think this would all fail?
Well, yeah, I think in our if you want to get involved in this field and get involved in the biotech startup, you need to have some degree of confidence that you will be successful.
A lot, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it, some of it depends on good luck, but a lot of it depends on having confidence in what you want to do and what you want, and achieving your goals. I think if you set your goals right, with good information and good arguments, I think you can get there. And that's basically what happened to us. So now we now have to do the study, and hopefully the study will be positive.
Well, we all hope that, because we, as you said, we need further advancement in transplantation. We need companies like yours to accept the risks that you embrace, I guess, if you do something like this.
Yeah.
So what's the worst or a bad possible scenario?
I think, so long as we carry out the study properly, the results will be the results. We either prove the hypothesis that we are testing in the study works or not. If it doesn't work, but so long as we do a well-conducted study and the data is robust, and that shows that blocking this mechanism of action of this drug doesn't work, then then we move on. Then the whole transplant community can move on, and move on to new ideas and new hypotheses. I think that's a positive outcome as well. So in a negative study, you can learn a lot of things.
Well, that's an interesting aspect. So I wanted to ask you that. Let's assume the outcome is not as it was desired. People are talking a lot about the value of data these days.
Right.
So how much is it worth? I mean, not maybe talking numbers, but just to give us an idea, a sense of what such data of a trial that didn't fulfill and meet the primary endpoints, how much would it still be worth in comparison to what you invest?
I think from a commercial perspective, I don't think it would worth a lot of money from a dollars perspective, but from a scientific perspective, it is worth a lot of money, because you can learn a lot of things from failed trials. There's a lot of data that you could mine to look for new targets, new endpoints, etc. So even like I say, even in a failed study, there is a lot of value in failed studies. But from a commercial perspective, from a financial perspective, obviously that's not the outcome that you're wishing for, because obviously our investors are not going to get a return on their money.
So let us assume that this trial is successful, that we all hope you meet your primary endpoints, and then comes market entry.
Right.
How big of a challenge do you see that to be in comparison to what you've done up until this point?
As you know, there is no effective treatment, no approved treatment. So entry into the market should be relatively easy. Speaking to the transplant community, they're crying out for new treatments. So it should be relatively easy to get into the market. Although I'm not a marketing expert, but I would have thought, based on my experience, that this should not be a problem.
Right. Well, I am a member of the market. I can assure you that we are hungry for new products, for innovation to come to our field.
Right, yeah.
Well, Eddie, thanks for joining me here today. That was very informative. I think we're both looking forward to our session tomorrow, late in the afternoon. I think it's 6:30.
Yep.
It's going to be hopefully an interesting interactive session. The idea of that session, again, is to bring together the people from the medical field with those who are on their way like you or have been successful already, to hear about how this works, what the challenges were, what the challenges are.
Right.
Maybe others will then pick up the idea
Right.
and be brave enough to do what you did.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.